don't leave, we don't leave it. We don't leave, we don't leave, we don't leave it. No way. You just find me on the road for carnival. Give me vibes, give me space, give me room. Plenty place on my canal. Give me the rhythm and the vibes, but I'm on the road for carnival. Watch how the girl let my wine in. So let my movies up in time. Feel so good I can't get.
Welcome back inside the room. And we're not sticking today because guys, we got a lot of information to disseminate within this 30 to 45 minutes with the Honorable Minister this morning. Honorable Kerryne James is in the studio with us, Minister for Climate Resilience, Environment and Renewable Energy. And it's 2 years, seems like yesterday, but it's officially 2 years, so soon. So of course, you know that we're making the rounds in terms of town hall meetings, etc., so that they can bring us up to speed on what's being happening. And we get a chance to know more about their different ministries and what they've been up to in the last year or two, yeah? So we're kicking it off with the Honorable Minister for Climate Resilience, Environment and Renewable Energy this morning. But as always, in-house business, let me welcome everybody to the show. Good morning to you if you're live on YouTube, if you're live on Facebook, or you're listening via radio. Top of the morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. And like I said, I don't have a lot of time, so I'm not able to do the roll call as we normally do. So I guess you guys will have to excuse and forgive me today. But we got important matters to deal with. I mean, y'all are important, but this morning we have a lot of important information to share with you. So it's indeed a pleasure to have you here with us this morning. So come on in. And as soon as you come on in, you can hit the share button. Give other folks the opportunity to be a part of this conversation this morning. You never know, you just might have a question or two that you'd like me to ask the minister for you this morning, all right? So welcome again, everybody, wherever you are, powering up from. Not on the back burner. Y'all are always on the forefront. But today, relax today, okay? Brand new one in the background from Dash and Mr. Golden on the road. So we're definitely on the road right now. So come on in, guys. Let's get the show on the road, all right? So without any further ado, let me say a special morning to our minister, and of course give her a big ladies room welcome. Welcome, Honorable James. How are you today?
Thank you so much. Good morning to you, Aruna, and to your listening audience. It's a pleasure to be here.
Finally.
It's well over
time.
8 years. Second time, actually. First time in this capacity, but I'm happy to be here, and I'm doing great this morning.
Wonderful. Like I told my audience, we have a lot of catching up to do, you know. It feels like yesterday you, along with the other members, were sworn into office, and here you are now about to celebrate 2 years.
2 years.
It feels like yesterday.
It feels like yesterday, and it also feels like 12 years. Trust me, the amount of work that we have put in, the time flew by so quickly. The amount of requests, the amount of demands, be it at the constituency level, be it at the local level in terms of the different parishes, be it at the regional and international level. So it has been quite some time.
So we definitely going to spend some time, speaking on that, what you've been up to, of course, the past year or two. And I think we should start off more with your journey into politics, being a very, very young member of parliament. We can start off by you sharing your journey into politics and some of the things that, moments and inspirations that led you to choose this particular career.
Well, I don't think it is something that we see all the time, but my involvement or my love for politics stemmed out of pageantry. In 2016, I represented the constituency at National Carnival Queen Show, representing St. John, the parish, sorry. And we were to have a platform whereby we get connected and we stay connected and on the ground with our parishioners. And so coming out of that, I realized that the upbringing that I had and the experiences that I was able to have and the people that I sat in school with, that was different to all of us. Some have been living in vulnerable situations, others were more privileged, some had the support of their parents, others didn't. Some had to, at a very young age, grow up fast and become adults and take care of themselves. And so when I realized that from that platform, I, got a bit more vocal, as my friends would always say, I'm always the talker box in the meet. So I got more vocal, and I guess maybe coming out of that, one of the direct links that I had in terms of getting involved in politics was one morning when a group of us at TAMCC decided that we were going to school class, and we sat on the playground almost the entire day. And around mid-morning, we saw a group of young men standing by the ministerial complex with placards in their hands. Everybody was wondering, okay, well, what's going on? And there's a revolution, and everybody talking. Of course, being the one that has, the most, confidence or whatever you would call it, everybody was like, Kerryne, go over and see what this young man them doing.
You go.
And so, of course, the golf girl must go. And so I went there and I asked them and I engaged them, and then I realized that they were doing this for a cause and a purpose, and they had a message. And so these three young men were protesting against what they considered as little to no support for young people in the country. At that time, there were topical issues in relation to employment, in relation to healthcare, in relation to public servants and the public union. And so the message resonated deeply with me. And immediately I got most of my friends to come on. Those who were shy stayed back to take the pictures. And those who were not shy and understood what they were fighting for, they joined on. These three men was none other than Tevin Andrews, now Minister for CARICOM, Pity Matnick and MP. Ron Redhead, former Minister and MP for St. George Northeast, and Mr. Ian Django Thomas, our dear friend, who has been in it for us. And so after that experience, my engagement with the party plummeted, it increased, and I represented them as a youth rep on the National Sustainable Development Plan, where I did most of the work. And I think really and truly that experience there, having realized that the young people put so much into that plan, so many efforts went into that plan, the stakeholders that were involved, and then coming down to the wire of it, it was politicized, and so the young people was shoved to the side, and I thought to myself, we can't do all this work, see all these issues, and leave out the most important people in the process. And so I decided that I was going to join a political party, and really and truly, because that's the only how you can make an impact, and that's the only how I believed at the time that you can get involved directly into the decision-making process. And so without the consent of my mother, my parents, and she's here this morning.
Oh, that's your mama there.
That's my mama there. I decided that I was going to join a political party, and I was going to really and truly lobby, not for persons to follow the political party that I chose, but for young people to just get more aware, more conscious, and to be involved, and to just ensure that they are registered to vote and to vote whatever party that they so desired. Yes.
It has been, how has that journey, would you say, how has it been for you? All the things that you highlighted, all the reasons why you wanted to be there, to be part of the change. How would you say you have developed over the time?
I am still surprised and amazed by how I have been grown. I felt as though, and I still feel sometimes, that at some point in times, my youth was sacrificed. I had a lot of responsibilities at a very early age. I was a senator before I became a representative. And so, what you would see the regular or the ordinary 20-year-old, 19-year-old would be doing, I was trying to interpret laws, jump past that, trying to interpret laws, trying to interpret the Constitution in a more in-depth manner, and trying to plan and understand policy making. And so on that side, it was a working process for me, because at the end of it, when you slow down and you realize, like, hey, I'll be 27 this year. you know, and you would hear your counterparts speak about the experiences that they've had.
This and
You
fun
know,
and
you understand. And I grew up in a very strict home, and so I couldn't wait when I was 18. And by the time I was right, by the time I was 18. I had so many responsibilities that I don't regret, but you know, sometimes when you sit in that silent space and you introspect, you realize that it has been a tremendous sacrifice, and I'm proud as to what I've been able to do. And you know, I just want, you know, other young persons who might think that they are not qualified, or persons might be saying that they don't have the experience, that they don't have the knowledge, that they can't do it, that they're young, they're dumb, they're inexperienced.
And the thing about it is, you're coming from St. John, from Guelph, and you know there's a lot of stigma attached. Anytime you hear Guelph, people are like sidelined, not realizing there's so much talent and so much, you know, folks that come out of Guelph that go out and do big things, you know, but we don't highlight them enough. So now you're responsible for an entire constituency. You don't just have a little pocket meeting here and you have a group of people, whether they voted NDC, GOLP, whatever, you're responsible for the entire constituency. On a day-to-day, you know, how would you say the support, what does the support looks like for you? And seeing that your mom is also here, and I saw the one, I'm like, okay, you probably walked along and she's doing her crocheting and everything.
Yes, she does it as a hobby here.
So how important was the support for, what is your support system like?
Well, Guelph is a place they either love you or they hate you. And then you have Grenada on a whole. And then you have St. John. And, you know, I must admit that from the time
Why have you all differentiated Guelph and St. John? Like, Guelph is on its own and St. John is on its own.
Of course, Guelph is the Republic of Rhode. You should know that by now, right? But as a parliamentary representative, obviously, I know that, you know, it is a part of St. John. But yeah, I take pride because I was born in Guelph. I grew in Guelph. My early education was in Guelph. I still live in Guelph today. And so I am very proud to speak of the place that I come from, that village that I come from, because as you rightfully mentioned, there's so many stigma attached to our community. And if you look, and I'm unapologetic about that, every opportunity that I get, I always say that Guelph people, 90% of the time when you hear something is done big for Grenada, that person is from Guelph or have parents from the Republic, right? And so I you know, I have seen how my community has deteriorated, and I want to always remember, like them, to give them that remembrance of how we are as a people, our fighting spirit, how we are creative, how we can break barriers, break boundaries, and break ceilings, you know. So I'm always proud to say that. But as I was saying, support, they love me. They haven't reached to the point of hating me yet. Some might, you know, for various reasons, they might say things about you, they might talk about you, they might do things.
Grenada.
That is Grenada, right? And I'm open to it because, of course, you're in the eyes of the public. You have to be open to the scrutiny. So I don't focus too much on the negative. I focus on the positive and the love that I have received, the constructive criticisms that I have received so far, you know, and I must big up my team who supports me in everything that I do, whether I go wrong or I go right. They would let me know when I go wrong, and they would support me 100% when I go the right way. So support for me takes various forms. I can't really explain in depth as to what it looks like in a more intricate way, but for the most part, I have been supported by my people of St. John, whether they're supporting
when they're
me
for you, listen, that's one
otherwise.
thing. If you want to talk about support, when they're for you, they're for you.
Yep.
There's no gray lines, there's no in between. They're for you.
They're for me.
Or 100% or nothing. Now, in terms of role models, you know, let's go back a bit to your upbringing in Grenada. Who would you say influenced your life and your career choices?
I would say reading about the powerful women in St. John who would have made a mark, not only in St. John, but when you go across the country, you would hear their names calling. So persons like Grace Duncan, because persons like, right, Miss Clarice Charles, you know, persons, I could call many persons, not only in politics, Miss Oslin Radix Thomas, who have taught quite a number of generations of children in the St. John's Anglican School where I was schooled. You know, so looking at them and seeing how they were able to break barriers when, you know, women in politics, their involvement in that kind, and women in leadership on a whole was tabooed, or there weren't any support. And to see how they had so much little resources and they got the job done. They understood the assignment, and despite what it wasn't popular, despite it wasn't something that was trending around the world, here in Little Grenada, they were doing things that actually impacted lives and communities, and they built it. And so when I look back, credit has to be given to them for the sacrifices that they have made and the way that they have paved. And so a lot of them may not even know, that myself and other young women have been looking at them at that way, and looking and hearing the stories about the sacrifices and the things that they've done for people. It still rings today. When I go out in the field, people still talk about the impacts of Miss Clara Charles. They still talk about the impacts of Miss Grace Duncan in bringing light and bringing water to them. So I'm amazed by that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. We often talk about, in life you have ups, downs, good, bad, uglies. You have challenges and so many other things that come along the way. And I'm sure that in politics, it's no different, right? So let's talk about some of the challenges that you've encountered along the way and how you went about overcoming them as a young woman, especially in politics.
Well, some of the challenges. The first challenge is when I decided that I was going to forgo my scholarship to go to the UK to further my education, and to become the candidate for the party that I supported. Many persons took my image and they tried to talk bad about it, and my image in terms of the outward appearance. So I'm a girl, I love style. I am not the traditional work woman. All right, so I love style, I love fashion, I love to do my nails, Arona, as long as I want it, as short as I want it. I love my eyelashes reaching all the way out, and I love my makeup. I love my natural hair, but I also like to mix it up sometimes, because natural hair is our work to deal with. And so many persons who were not supportive of me, they took that and they run with it and they try to make fun of it and say, oh, I don't understand the assignment, or I'm in it for the wrong reasons, and this is not a beauty pageant. And, I've had to wrestle with that even today, that this work takes so much from you, it takes so much from your family, that it is difficult to hold on to the things that you once love, or that what makes you you and what makes you feel confident and comfortable. And so very much unapologetically, I told them I was not going to forgo that, but it's still something that persons who don't like makeup think I should wear makeup. Persons who don't like natural hair think, oh, you need to comb your hair, you need to get your hair groomed, as if it's not groomed, right? Persons who probably don't even like me to show a little shoulder, or even my tattoo on my hand, they would talk about that, and they would use it as a weapon, not criticizing or not bringing suggestions to the table as to the work that I am doing, as to the progress that I am making and the plans that I have, but they use that as an opportunity to demoralize me and other young people as well. So that has been the biggest challenge, biggest challenge so far.
All right. Now, I wanna move on a bit. That's the challenging part, like more on the personal side of things. How about from a ministerial side of things? Like I said, you're fairly new to this, right? Even though you would have held the position of senator, you're now in charge of an entire ministry. That's an entire different ball game. Now, on the challenges side of things, let's speak on that as in reference to what you're responsible for.
So I'm a minister, and I'm also an MP. Most times people think that you have to be, there's a balance that you need to strike, and sometimes persons can be, a little bit, I have to use my words very carefully. They can be a little bit restless as to what you should prioritize and what you shouldn't prioritize, not realizing that we have to do the balancing act, right? And so my ministry, one of the biggest challenge for me, it was, not having the academic qualifications for the portfolio. And so there was a point during at least the first 3 months while I was in office, that was my learning curve. And I had to research, I had to read the papers, I had to read everything, swallow everything, cram, learn, rehearse, research, do all of the hard work to understand what it is that the portfolio requires, locally, regionally, and internationally, and to also try to see how I can put it into perspective and to actually do things on the ground in the constituency, in the country, that persons can relate to and that they can see the work of the ministry. And that process was and still is a challenging one. I have never been, like you said, in the public sector. I've always been in the private sector. My dad is a contractor, and I've worked with him there, right? And so, you have deadlines that you would like to meet. You have plans and policies that you would love to pass at a certain time. And if you don't have persons who can execute, because remember, Rona, this is us trying to balance everything. You have one thing this week, next week I could be somewhere else in the world. I might have an event this week happening here, next month I have to plan for something else. And so when you give the directive in your ministry, you are expecting that your team there can carry it through. And sometimes while they might be motivated to work and to get things done, the process, the bureaucracy, it stifles the time that they can actually implement. And so sometimes opportunities are lost in the grapevine. Implementation of projects and programs, are affected by that because the bureaucracy is so stifling. So from the ministry's perspective, that has been the biggest challenge.
And climate change and climate resilience, environment and renewable energy, this isn't something that much people speak on. We tend to deal with the day-to-day bread and butter issues, things that affects us directly. And folks may not realize that climate change does affect us directly, but we don't seem to put much emphasis on it. And in terms of the information, disseminating the information or getting the information or knowing what it's about, for that matter, you have been quite a number of places, in different forums discussing climate and climate change and all of these things. Can you speak to us on that and some of the places you've been, and of course what it is now that you think we ought to be aware of that we're not?
Well, while I will start off by answering and saying that, while from an intellectual standpoint, we don't necessarily converse not on a day-to-day basis, but we feel it all the time. And we still hear persons, give reminisce and give stories about their experience with Hurricane Ivan in 2004 and how has that impacted them. So I wouldn't say that they don't talk about it. From the intellectual perspective, they may not know the terminology, but they are speaking of the same things that we see today. The drought that we recently had.
How hot it is.
How hot it is. You understand? Seeing how many land space has, almost disappeared in our eyes. The sea has come, coastal erosion. And, so while they may not be able to give the right terms, but they're seeing the effects of it, and so they understand. And, what I've been realized from having been in so many different forums is that at the policy level and at the leadership level, we have failed over the years to really and truly make the connection with the people at the grassroots level, the people that are most affected by the impacts of climate change. And that has been the common theme, that everyone, whether it is in our region, in another region, in the south, in the north, wherever, everybody is saying, how can we use the science? How can we use the research? How can we use the data that we have collected? And the technology has improved so drastically that you can almost predict anything 100% accurately. So how can we use that now to tailor it down? We are making the policies, we are in the space, occupying the space, getting access to the finances to actually implement. But how do we get public buy-in? How do we help them to understand that what they're experiencing is not just something that happened today for today or, just out of the blue, but it's because of years of how we have not been able to be sustainable in our practices that make us earn a living. And that is where, the conversations has been. We have been speaking about a lot of things in how can we mitigate against it. Mitigate simply means how can we guard us from not having to lose so many land space? How can we ensure that we don't rely on international sources for our energy consumption and that we can use our natural resources to get in our own access for our own energy security? How can we ensure that our fishermen actually can fish years to come, and fishing will not be something that once was but still is? How can we get our farmers to understand that they too have their responsibility in the whole ecosystem, and so what they do at the mountains, the ridge, it goes down all the way to the ocean, to the rifts. So how can we get everybody to be on board in this whole sustainability conversation is something that that has been trending worldwide, not only for Grenada but internationally.
Now, in terms of your ministry, and of course, you being out there doing so much representation, coming back to home, moving forward, how do you intend to gather all that you've learned and, disseminate the information to so that the ordinary man can understand what exactly is happening and where we're headed climate-wise?
Well, we have taken a holistic approach towards ensuring that we understand and we do what we're supposed to do at the local level. So we have been engaging with our stakeholders, the civil society, NGOs. We have been inviting them into many forums that we have. We have also been reaching out and targeting our student population. We have been targeting other ministries, because one of the first things that we need to do in order for us to ensure that we have buy-in within the government and administrative structure is to mainstream climate change in all of the ministries. We are not working in silos, right? That has been one of the main challenges in terms of getting public buy-in and to making things bigger and to realizing the bigger impact of initiatives. And so there's a lot of things that has been going on in agriculture. For example, the Climate Smart Agriculture Program, specifically tailored for farmers and persons in the agricultural industry, right? You would realize based on public releases and press releases. We recently came from the Small Island 4th International SIDS Conference in Antigua last week, and Prime Minister has so agreed that we are going to host a 𝐴𝐵 conference in September. Planning has been doing. So it's not only bringing the stakeholders at the local level as well, but it's also bringing them at the regional level and Grenada leading by example. In the oceans space, we have also agreed and launched at that same SIDS conference a Blue Schools initiative that will tailor, to bringing awareness into the ocean and so ocean sustainability and how many impacts and how many progress we can make there and how we can use these resources to actually ensure that our students population are equipped for this new economy, right? So we have been doing quite a lot. Of course, my ministry is not as glamorous as other ministries that are active, and almost everything that they do, you would see it. Most of what I do requires a lot of planning. It requires going through the whole project preparation process. It requires ensuring that you have the support and that you have the finances to roll out. And so most of it is behind the scenes, and then when we come out, it's like, boom, these are the things that we're doing, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have been trying to ensure that we do not leave anyone outside of the conversations, anyone outside of the project planning phases. And we are leading by example in the Caribbean region.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more symposiums and more,
Yes.
more like we do in the town hall meetings, specifically discussing that, because unless people are living under a rock, it's obvious that there's something off. You're seeing places flooding, places like New York, etc., having, serious changes in the weather pattern and other parts of the world, and it's something that really grabbed my attention that, hey, we probably need to have more conversations and bring people more up to speed with what's going on where that is concerned. Now, in terms of your work-life balance, right? Describe how you balance your professional responsibilities with your personal life, because I know, as you mentioned earlier, in terms of your age, and you probably jump past your youth and were thrust into the world of responsibilities so quickly. How would you say you manage those?
We don't have a personal life.
Even when you have a personal life, it's null and void.
It's null and void because, when you have constituents that, sometimes some might come and, they would try and push you. They would see that you're in pain. They would see you at the doctor. Something might be wrong. And they might be selfish, if I must say that. And selfish is not a bad word, right? They might be selfish in terms of what they want to get across. But really and truly, we don't have a private life. Everywhere we go, our personal life, everywhere we go, we are asked questions. They want to request, they want it now. And, I guess I have grown to realizing and understanding that. I have grown to also understanding that there are times when I need to not go out to the demands and not be pressured into having to always be accessible. Because what I realize is that persons, when you're too accessible, they lose respect for your office and for you as a person. So I have been learning how to cope with that. I am a workaholic. I work very hard, Aruna. And so persons would say, Kerryne, I see it in your eyes. Your eyes are weak. Under your eye getting too black. You need rest. I see it in your body. Your posture is bad. You need to rest. But I have learned to push myself to know when it needs to stay back, when I don't need to be in the media, and I need to be back, and I need to be thinking and planning behind the scenes, and I need to just be doing nothing at all and enjoying my family, enjoying the things that I once loved. I love to dance, and so sometimes I mix the dancing with the working as well. When I can't get that time to do it by myself, I make the work fun for me and for my staff. So that's how I've been coping, knowing when to do what, and knowing when I need to exclude myself, and when I need to have that piece of me for me.
I want to stay in your constituency for a little bit and deal with, like the St. John itself, St. John. I'm sure you would meet with your constituents on a regular basis, and even though you don't have like the scheduled days, they would come to you about their needs and some things that can develop the constituency on a whole. What would you say are some of the things that you find comes to the forefront a lot?
Most of my constituents who have had one-on-one with, whether it's in the office or in the field, is housing and land issue. A lot of our young people, a lot of our elderly or most senior citizens who, for whatever reason, life happened, and all they were able to do during their working period was to just ensure that they have a good living and they make a good living for their children. And so they didn't focus on themselves to get in there, to acquiring their lands or to building their homes. And so many persons now realizing that, hey, I am coming down in age, I have this problem, this health problem has arises, or a young person who is just, becoming a young professional has a good job, but it's not making too much that they can go to a bank and, be able to purchase a piece of land or buy a house. They want to own something. They want to know that this is mine. I have this, or I can work towards building this if I get the first assistance. So housing and land issue has been a key topic, and even before my time has been a key topic and a key area of concern in my area. That, and also my people in St. John, they have an entrepreneurial spirit. A lot of them want to own their own businesses. A lot of them want opportunities. And most times it is not in areas where the banking institution allows for that type of creativity and that type of financial support. And so, we are still working, I am still working along with my ministerial colleagues to see how best we can tailor to these people. One of the areas that have been very helpful for us is the establishment of the creative economy, the creative industry within the Ministry of Culture to help creatives who, might not have that access to financing and to really materializing and realizing their dreams. These two are the main ones. Based on where you go in the constituency, it would look like infrastructure in terms of major roads that have been neglected for years. So, for example, persons in the Concord area, the southern part of the island, the Mongdor Road is a road, a farm road, a main farm road. We have a lot of residents there. They would be talking about that issues. If you go to Gov itself, it would be the fishing industry and what we can do for the fishing industry. So it varies based on the community.
So moving forward, like I said, we're into year 2. Looking ahead, what is your greatest desire for your constituency?
My greatest desire is to see St. John being, regained its title as the fishing capital of Grenada. Right? We have done so much for the economy that we have never really been noticed in a serious way for.
When you say regain, are there issues now regarding fishing in St. John?
Definitely. A lot of our fisher folk, they quarrel and they complain about not having access to bait. Bait has been an issue. Some of them, their boats are probably has been built and they had the engines a few years now and it needs to be changed off. They may not have the money because due to poor money management or life happens, right? They may not have the finances readily available. So that has been a challenge too. And also adapting to the same climate change. Some persons, you would hear them say, I'm not catching as I used to catch before. I can't really know the season of what type of species I could catch. And so they have been, they have been saying the things as I mentioned as to what is happening in terms of the climate changing. But they have not really been able to make that link between not being able to catch fish and climate change.
So that means the method has to change.
The
and would we see,
method.
like from a government perspective, introducing technology to make it easier for them?
Definitely. So I have been personally working on that, working to see how best we can teach them about new fishing techniques as well as new technologies that can better able to help them know the seasons, know exact locations, understand habitat changes that occurs and all of that. So we have been working very closely with the minister and his team for economic development and fishing in that regard.
Okay, so I guess in the coming months and weeks and years, we'll definitely have better updates in terms of some of the things you mentioned being done to help the fisher folks in St. John. But I was asking before I interrupted you in terms of you're looking ahead and what is your long-term plan for your constituency? What would you really like to see happening?
My long-term plan is to see St. John to its full potential. I think we are the only constituency on the western zone that has a public works building that once used to house a lot of the government offices. Now we are helter-skelter all over the place, right? And so if we are to really and truly be effective in how we give the services to the people and how we bring the services to the people, I think we first have to look at ourselves and to make the small but big changes in terms of putting structure, in terms of ensuring that our public buildings are in good standing, or public buildings do not look dilapidated and old and make the constituency look so aged and dirty. So that is one of the things from an infrastructure perspective. I would also love to see we have one of the Olympians, the only 400-meter gold, silver, bronze, and soon to be the other second gold medalist in golf, and our Cuthbert Peters Park. Right, while we have seen works was done in the past to making a mini stadium, but is it really a mini athletic stadium? Is the grounds really good for to train up and to mold another Kerryne James out of golf? So from the sporting aspect of it, I would love to see the sporting people joining with me, coming together. Let's sit down, let's have a conversation of it. I spoke to them when I just came in office. We had a conversation to look at plans that was once on the table and nothing was done about it. So I want to see our sporting. The sporting it is an industry, and I think we run it as a little hustle still. So I would love to see us use our sporting arenas, the playing fields that we have not only in golf but in the other areas. Florida, for example. Florida is a community that is known for cricket, right? We don't have a proper cricket pitch or whatever they call it in St. John. So we have to not only rehabilitate playing fields as how we used to, but to really sit down, put a plan together and to target the specific types of sports that we want to enhance for our community and for our constituency and the wider Grenada. And I think if we do these things, we'll be doing our students and our children justice.
So can we get a commitment from you to see those things put into action?
Of course. The commitment has always been there. June 1st, 2022, when I decided that I was going to be the candidate and I did my nomination day. June 1st, that commitment was made. And so things has to be put in place from now. The conversations have to be put in place from now. And I'm a girl. I don't let the bureaucracy stop me, right? Don't let the bureaucracy stop me. So I am working hard in trying to link with the networks that I've been able to make outside of the country as well, not only relying on local revenue, but to bringing in, organizations to see the possibilities of my place. I am proud of my parish, and I have been working really hard in that regard. So the commitment was made 2 years ago. Now it's time for action, and we're slowly doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody here is saying the demolition of that old dilapidated first pavilion is now an eyesore and a disaster waiting to happen. How soon can we see some move being made?
Well, it is a dilapidated building, but a constituent of mine is also housed there. So we have been, in conversations. I've engaged quite a number of persons within the community, be it in football, be it in athletic, track, and as well as field. As to what we can do about that place. I know that the Ministry of Infrastructure has it done to do it, to seeing what can be done out of that place. But from my plans, I would really love to see us using that to the max. So it's we are waiting the engineers to see how sound the building is, to ensuring that we make the necessary proper arrangements for the constituent who is homeless, who is living there, to transition him out as well too. And then we would go ahead to seeing whether it has to break down, and then we would propose the plan, bring it back to an internal style so that persons can engage and give us ideas as to what that particular space in Cuthbert Peters Park can be used for.
Great. Someone says, so hold on. I'm trying to get some of the questions here. One of the things that we realize too, and you always hear a lot from, not just from your parish, but on a whole, you always have people saying, when it's like campaign season, we see a lot of our ministers, we hear a lot about our ministers, they're practically living in our homes with the amount of times we see them. But after, the campaign season is over and, everybody's down to, it's back to business, you have a hard time, getting a hold of them. In terms of your connection and relationship, how do you keep them, like you said, there's no personal time, there's no me time. But in terms of, keeping your constituents in the know, in the loop, and making them understand that, hey, you have a work to do, you represent Grenada, but I still have to take care of my constituency. How do you balance that? How do you get them to understand that? And of course, give them the time that is needed.
Mm-hmm. So I would answer that to simply say that you would never have all of the time, and you would never be physically able to go all of the places, whether it be in campaign season or out of the campaign season when we're in the period of governing and structure, right? And so when you're in the campaign season, there's a time designated. That's all that happens. So you would see a lot of us there. I think the issue is not being there 99.9% of the time. The issue is in terms of how do you balance, the obligations, and how do you gain access. And so having a good structure is something that has worked for me. My ministry is a traveling ministry. A lot of persons, they lie about the traveling. They lie about the time spent in my constituency, and even some persons who I can show pictures that have been to their homes last week, and they would go on social media and lie and say they have never seen the minister. That has been one of the challenges for me. I still live in my constituency. I live right in the heart of Gulf, the same street that I grew up, St. Dominic Street, Belfast, to be exact. And so persons have that one-on-one with me outside of my Thursdays that are designated as my constituency day. So every Thursdays, once I am not out of the island, persons can come to the constituency office. They can have a one-on-one with me. I also ensure that whatever social assistance program that is available, and we have an officer in charge, that officer is also in my constituency office. So even if they do not see me, another person saying that they have to see me in order for something to work. Let's say, Arona, you're the officer in charge of housing in St. John, right? They will come to the office. I want to see the minister. Today is Monday. I have cabinet. I want to see the minister for housing. All right. I want to see the minister. But what you want to see the minister for? I just want to see the minister. It's a personal matter, but they want housing support. So the receptionist might say, all right, well, if you need housing, the person is here for housing. If you need seed, I can always call the person. I can give your name and your number, and they can come to you. No, I want to see the minister. And they will go and say, I don't see the minister at all. Not realizing that there is an officer in charge. They might call me, right? And I would tell them, okay, check Arona in the office. She's there now. Check her now. They will say, no, I want to see you.
They want to see
right?
you. Yes.
So sometimes, I have to remind my
and that is
constituents.
understandable. Like, sometimes it might be personal. You don't want to talk about your business to other people, but at the same time, they don't understand, how it works.
The process, right? So, we it's something that we're working on, and we have to try to balance and try to meet them where they're at, and for them to also understand that, and, the MPs, they put people in place who are professional professionals. And so you have to trust that if the minister tells you that you have to speak to the officer or go through the process and I would expedite it for you, or I would personally follow up on your application for you, you have to take that word. Also, what I've been trying to do as well, and you don't see me posting all the time, Arana, because sometimes I am embarrassed as to how persons are living, and I would not, the conditions, and I am a person, I grew up very humble, and I grew up knowing that if you're doing good for somebody, whether or not it makes you look good in the public or you want to score political points, I would not do it. So if I am giving persons a hamper, you would see me posting about the hamper, you would not see the recipients, and that's just me. Persons would say, well, politics is not for you, then so be it, let it not be for me. Right? But I don't believe in promoting and in celebrating and in posting people's vulnerability. They're already poor. If you want to use that word, I'm not going to be the one to make them exposed.
I like that. And I'm happy that you're one who thinks and feels that way. I strongly believe that as well. If you're doing from the heart, let the person, if they wish to post it, I have no problem with that. If they want to post and say thank you to who and who, but I strongly believe that. Speaking about that though, I think we have 2 more questions based on the time. But in terms of youth, and especially the young men in your constituency, I'm sure you've seen what's happening. You know, there's been a lot of violence, gun violence, etc. We've had in 𝐴𝐺𝐲 as well some time ago. Do you have days when you speak to young men? Is that something you're going to be targeting, or you'd like to target young men? You know, we always speak about youth, and a lot of the times the young women show up and not so much the young men. But in terms of the young men moving forward, and those who may be unemployed and maybe seeking or not, whatever the case might be, how do you intend to deal with the young men in your constituency?
Well, the Ministry of Social and Community Development, Housing and Gender Affairs recently passed a cabinet submission to target outreach programs with a clinician, Dr. Neil Chaitan, to help to reach the psyche of the young people in a number of different communities. 𝐺𝐲, I don't want to say 𝐺𝐲 again, but 𝐺𝐲 has been, and as you rightfully mentioned, because of where the young men they would congregate, right, that we're trying to reach. 𝐺𝐲 has been targeted specifically so far the Gum-Matter area, and so we are rolling out this program now. It is currently being rolled out in Tivoli. They will be soon be coming down to 𝐺𝐲, and so this will be the first platform that I am going to be communicating and conversing with them in terms of really motivating. Now, I have always been on the block. I'm not uncomfortable being on the block, as though most persons would say. I am there. I don't have to promote and publicize that either, because it is me genuinely sitting there listening to the creativity, listening to the depth. Sometimes I even question me having my degree when I speak to some of these young men who are brighter than me, I tell you, Arona, and the system and life got the best of them, and they have not been able to really tap into their full potential. So I have been doing that in a very informal way, and I'm not a clinician. I cannot, sometimes too, we have to be very careful in how we motivate persons, because if you can say something to somebody and it might mean something else, and it might do more harm than good to that one person. So I have been have my undergrad degree in psychology. I've been conscious of that. So in a formal way, I have personally not engaged them as that, but just to come to them as a friend and just to listen to it. So I have listened to them for quite a while, and I am able now to sit with somebody who is skilled, who is experienced, and who has the qualifications in that area, and we are going to be doing this together to meet these young men where they are at. Also, we have the Empower Program 4.0, which is back. This program is geared towards doing the same thing, life skills teaching, and helping them to move away from deviant behavior and helping them not to be vulnerable to, the fast life and what the opportunities, let me not say opportunities, but to what the fast life can get you fast, but is not really legal and legit, and structured. And so that program will help them also to develop entrepreneurial skills and to help them, at the end to have their own businesses and stuff. So I'm saying all of this to say that it's a collaborative approach. I cannot do it by myself simply because I'm not qualified in the area.
Will be done.
Something will be done. It is in the plannings, and we're moving next to 𝐺𝐲. When they come from Tivoli, they'll be in 𝐺𝐲. So you'll be seeing more of that posting and reporting on as to how we target them. But I want to caution us to about something. What I've realized is that, we would see a number of persons engaging in activities, and we have seen, an increase in incidences, and I wouldn't say in gun violence, in incidences of deviant behavior. And so we bracket and we categorize all of our young men and say, our young men, nothing good, and that area ain't good, this person no good, that is no good. Not realizing that sometimes we just have to just be the door where they could just feel safe, and whatever good remains in that young man, that they could feel comfortable when they come to you and they talk to you. You don't judge them, but you actually embrace them and you show them love and care, and that you support them and that you are praying for them. And I think too many times our people, and I get it, sometimes it might be hard for the parents to see that they have, worked hard, they have sacrificed and do so much for their children. I am one of it too. I'm an example of it. My mom, for example, and maybe she may not like it because she's a very resolved woman like me, but she has 4 of us. My sister is a doctor. My brother was in the army in the UK. He's now gone back to school, and he's an author. The 3rd child, still trying to find his way in life, and so mental illness through drug-induced psychosis has plagued him. And I'm now in politics, and I'm trying to be a young professional in the process as well in other areas. And so sometimes you might, as a parent, you might think you have done so much, and you have done your very best. And sometimes it might be hard too for them to adapt and know how to love.
They're in the world. They're part of the world. They're outside.
Exactly. I know how to love and support them. And so I'm saying that to say, don't make it hard for the parents who are struggling to, try to find some way or some place in their heart to understand that my child needs me, not in the way how I loved them before, but I need to understand how I need to love them before. So as a society, where is the churches? What is the churches doing to helping government? It is not government's responsibility only. This is a society where we have all sectors of it. And so we need this to be a collaborative approach. We need not to politicize the issues that affect our most vulnerable young people. And I think that is what we have been doing. And we as MPs need to be responsible and hold ourselves accountable, and not try to blame and say when we was there and when that one was there and what if I was there and what you're not there, we are here, you are that level, you're in politics, you're in the church. What can we do together to mobilize the limited resources that we all have to reach to these homes and these young people?
And that's a wonderful way to end this morning.
Yeah.
Really, some way, right? With a call, of course, for everybody to get on board. It's not a one-person thing. We can't fix the problem. One sector, one, party, one this can't fix it. It requires a collaborative effort. And I hope, that everybody would understand that when it comes, at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, whether you're pink, red, blue, whatever, whoever you're affiliated with, it's still Grenadians at the end of the day, This is home. For all of us, and not for one particular set of people, but for each and every one of us. So we have to, of course, do our part to make it safe. Honorable James, it was such a pleasure speaking with you this morning, and I hope we get to see you soon and not wait for another,
8 years.
But I hope we get to see you again soon. So any final word, and then we're good to go.
Yeah, just, it's always a pleasure to be here, Rona. You're somebody that I grew up listening to on the radio in another station, and I'm just happy to see how you have blossomed and how you have hold your own in this space and take up space in this arena. And so I want to congratulate you as a woman to another woman, as a young woman looking up to somebody who have walked the path, even if you have not been involved in politics, but your platform, it allows for so much dialogue, so much conversations that we can learn from as politicians, because people might come to you about stories, and I see all of these stories, I see all of the things, and so that might be an avenue for us to, not politicize the issues. That would be an avenue for us to maybe meet persons who would not come to us, who may not feel comfortable to come into us. So continue doing what you're doing. And to the audience out there, I just want to thank you so much for supporting this government for this past 2 years. Thank you for, giving us the praises as well as giving us the constructive criticism. And remember, we all have our part to play in this development. We all have to ensure that we do our best and that we hold the laws of the country very high. And so I am proud that I am given this opportunity to serve, and I stay tuned because there will be many more of us, doing great things for Grenada.
And this is a record, so we pull in for the records and we don't see that happening. Thank you so much, and congratulations on your 2-year term in office. and continue doing the good job that you're doing as well. Super proud of you. It's always good to see, young women coming to serve and coming to the forefront. It's an absolute joy, and I hope, that other women will take inspiration from you. You're never
Yes.
too young for anything. Anything you put your mind to, you can and will do that. So again, thanks so very much, Honorable James. Appreciate your company this morning.
Thank you.
And that just about concluded. We've gone way above time, but I'm sure you guys will understand. And I hope you will join us again for another one next Wednesday. We should be having another minister in the studio. All right. So until then, I'll see you guys tomorrow, same time, same place for another one. Have a good one now, guys.